of the terms execution and application, because these are the functions of the administrative agency. So administrative, the term itself, is synonymous inter alia, or among other things, with management, and oftentimes does not entail an opportunity to be heard, the production and weighing of evidence or resolution thereon. When something administrative is done, it is usually unilateral on the part of the manager. So administrative function is actually ministerial, no? It is unilateral on the part of the manager, and there is no need for the administrative agency actually to hear, like, there is a settlement of controversy, and the primary function of the administrative agency is to implement. However, this hearing, production, and weighing of evidence will just come in when the administrative agency performs its quasi-judicial function. Pero the term itself, administrative, which is synonymous to management, which refers to the function of administrative agencies, that is primarily implementation, execution, administration. But there are times when it's quasi-judicial and quasi function will come in depending on the call of the time. Please take note, when we speak of administrative, the term refers to administration, the term refers to management. Okay, so public administration, therefore, means the management of public affairs, and it can be understood into different senses. We have here administration as a function and administration as an organization. So administration as a function is the execution in non-judicial matters of the law or will of the state as expressed by competent authority. The second sense, administration as an organization, is that group, aggregate, person in whose hands the reins of the government are for the time being. In the first, administration as a function, it refers to the execution of rules and policies. In the second, administration as a function, it refers to the group of persons who run the affairs of the government. An example of which is Aquino administration, Bertie administration, Aro administration. Okay, so also have there in your module administrative organization defined. It is an arrangement of personnel for facilitating the realization of objectives through allocation of functions, duties, and responsibilities. Now, I know, I'm expecting that this is just easy for you to understand because the definitions are given. So all you have to do is to read and understand it. Now, let us proceed to the government of the Republic of the Philippines. Now, what does this mean? Government of the Republic of the Philippines. So government here refers to the corporate government entity through which the functions of the government are exercised throughout the Philippines, including, save as the contrary appears from the context, the various arms through which political authority is made effective in Philippines, whether pertaining to the autonomous region, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, Muslim Mindanao, the provincial, city, municipal, subdivisions, or other forms of local government units, also including Cordillera Administrative Region. Now, please take note that when we speak of function of the government, we are referring to the three functions. What are those functions? Now, let me hear from Tommy more. Dili siya just an interaction, dili siya graded recitation. I want to clarify. What type of functions have you remembered? What are the functions of the government?
Ano siya, ma'am? Two functions of the government, ma'am?
Okay, two functions of the government.
Yes, ma'am. We have, ma'am, governmental or constituent function.
Mm-mm.
And then we have proprietary or ministrant.
So those are the two functions of the government. If you are to classify their function, there are governmental or constituent, and there are proprietary or ministrant. But as to the governmental or constituent function, we have three. We have three. What are those three? Heidi J. Heidi J. Si Heidi J. Ako ang pangutanon sa. Unsay mga saan yung remember? Si Heidi J. Si Mayan
Ma'am.
Okay, sige. Sa imong ma-remember unsa tong mga functions? Go under governmental.
Governmental functions, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ako alam yung own, ma'am. Hindi ko remember. Providing leadership, ma'am.
Okay, providing leadership, keeping of
Um,
order, providing for
yes,
protection
ma'am.
of persons and properties, but there are basic, no? Like executive, legislative, and judicial functions. Now, those functions, the executive, legislative, and judicial functions, to the first governmental constituent function of the government. Okay, so if we of the government of the Republic of the Philippines, we refer to the entities of the government which performs the executive, legislative, and judicial function, and we are referring to the local government units here, and like the autonomous regions, the provincial government, the municipal government, barangay government. Okay, so therefore, if we are to consider agencies or entities performing executive, legislative, and governmental functions fully as belonging to government of the Republic of the Philippines, can we consider public enterprises as an agency which is considered part of the government of the Republic of the Philippines? May I ask, Ruel? Can we consider all public enterprises? Karaman tag public enterprises, no? Can we consider public enterprises as part of the government of the Republic of the Philippines? So all of the DOCC. Okay, but our definition here of the government of the Republic of the Philippines, our definition here, entity which the function of government are exercised, meaning ay ang function ng mga governmental or constituent in the exercise of sovereignty and our compulsory functions. So nag-function ba ang government agent sa to kung pangutana ganiya government public enterprises, nag-function ba sila executive, legislative, and judicial? Okay, so there are government agencies, government-owned or controlled corporations which do not perform the functions of executive, legislative, and judicial. So not all government-owned or controlled corporations or not all public enterprises belong to the government of the Republic of the Philippines. Kanang definition diha nga belonging, no? Government of the Republic of the Philippines. When we speak of government of the Republic of the Philippines, dapat nag-perform siya of governmental function. Okay, So let us discuss two functions of the government. We have here governmental or constituent function, and we have here proprietary or ministrant function. So, kaganyan. Sige, sige. Okay. Mm-mm. Quasi-judicial, wala kaabot ganiha, ga-discuss ni. Quasi-judicial function o quasi-legislative function of administrative agencies. Okay. So, na dito. And the next function of the government is proprietary administrative function. These are the functions undertaken to advance the general interest of society, such as public works, public charity, and of trade and industry. These are optional. Why optional? Optional. So, meaning pwede i-function, pwede di perform. Now, because the government can exist without performing proprietary or ministrant, whereas government should exist to perform executive, legislative, judicial. The second function is proprietary. Proprietary. Can you give me an example of government agency performing proprietary function? Seljen. Seljen?
Yes, ma'am.
Oo. O saan ang proprietary?
Proprietary. Wait lang.
Naana sa public enterprise na to.
Ako, ma'am. Ako, ma'am. Fidelis, ma'am.
Okay. I want to emphasize na this is not a graded recitation and for purposes lang of interaction. Sige.
Yes, ma'am.
Sige. Proprietary.
For example, ma'am, ang government o ang katauhan ang kailangan o kanang kalsada. For example, kalsada din gihatag sa government. Kana siya na ma'am, kana siya na situation, proprietary na siya, ma'am, kay still mag-exist yung gyapon na ang kuan, ang kanang kuan. Kanang atong government, ma'am, nagdagan gyud siya without a ginahimo ng kanang kailangan sa mga example kanang kalsada, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Okay, so that's right. So proprietary actually, proprietary refers to profit. Pwede po na siya sa profit. Ministrant meaning inahanggang i-minister, not necessarily nga executive or judiciary, pero example ani katong kalsada, kinahanglan siya, di ba? So public works, public charity, regulation of trade and industry, but these are not performing executive, legislative, and judicial functions of the government. That's why it considers the ministry. Proprietary also, if the purpose of a certain agency is to gain profit, like public enterprises established by, created by our government. Now, they are proprietary, diba? But of course, the government may or may not establish public enterprises. The government can still exist. Okay, so there, no? I hope the two functions of the government are clear to you now. Kung governmental constituent function, these are mandatory functions of the government, kinahanglan nilang buhaton ni. Whereas ang proprietary administrant, pwede ra dili buhaton, but buhaton kaayo ra pod sa katauhan. So this is optional on the part of the government to perform. Okay. So we have here definition of administrative agency or administrative body. Agency here is defined by administrative. Also, the Supreme Court has its own definition of agency. So sa agency, under administrative code, ang first, any department, like the Department of Budget Management, any bureau of Internal Revenue, as an example, mga offices, regional offices, of the DNR, no, not a provincial DNR office, not a municipal DNR office. And then we have commission, like the commission on higher education. We have authority like the national, oh yes, commission on audit. We have the authority also, the katong National Food Authority, or officers like ombudsman. Na kana sila, they can be considered agency, no? Kung moingon ta og department, bureau, office, commission, authority, officer, ma-consider nato na siya nga agency under administrative code. Second, ganang mga research institution, panalitan, Philippine Rubber Research Institute, Rice Research Institute, no? Mga ingon ana, they are also considered as administrative agency. Mga government corporations, pwede, Professional Regulatory Commission, Department of Trade and Industry, matawag na to siya administrative agency, and officials, exercise of disciplinary powers like the ombudsman. The Supreme Court also has its own definition. According to the Supreme Court, agency refers to various units of the government, including a department, administrative bureau, office, instrumentality, or government-owned or controlled corporation, or a local government or a district unit therein. So, for purposes of understanding what an administrative agency is, let us consider both definitions given by Administrative Code and by the Supreme Court. So, based on our discussion kanina, we can say that administrative agency may be described as a body endowed with quasi-legislative and quasi-judicial powers. Okay? Okay, so next, unsa di ay ng quasi-judicial power o kaning quasi-legislative power. Kung mo ka judicial power, kung mo ka judicial, this is any act done under the direction of the court involving exercise of judgment. So, quasi man siya, meaning as if, no? As if, therefore, administrative agencies may perform as if judicial function, because this quasi-judicial power means the power of administrative bodies to conduct proceedings which partakes of the character of judicial proceedings, provided that the requisites of procedural due process must be complied with. Now, please take note that not all administrative agencies are given quasi-judicial power. Some administrative agencies are given only the executive power and the quasi-legislative power, but they do not have quasi-judicial power. But also, administrative agencies that have all these powers, the quasi-judicial and the quasi-legislative. Also, ang uban, quasi-judicial without quasi-legislative. So, quasi-judicial power DI is the power of an administrative agency to perform, to conduct proceedings which partakes of the character of judicial proceedings, meaning that it can decide on certain controversy. Like, for example, the National Labor Relations Commission. This is an administrative agency tasked to investigate, tasked to hear and decide cases involving employer-employee relationship in the private sector. So, if an employee in the private sector is litigated by her or his employer, that employee can file a complaint in the National Labor Relations Commission, and the National Labor Relations Commission, as an administrative agency, given this quasi-judicial power, can hear the complaint. So what the NLRC will do is to read the complaint of the employee and then provide the employer with a copy of the complaint and ask the employer to reply within 50 days from receipt of the copy to reply and explain the employer's side, so that the NLRC will decide based on the documents submitted by both parties, the NLRC. Now, if you can imagine that the NLRC is performing a quasi-judicial function as if it is court deciding on a certain controversy. Do you get that? Nakuha ba na ako? Mark, Beltran. Nasabta na to, na ay pangutana. Before we proceed, quasi,
agency mga Bureau of Investigation. Asa na sa quasi-legislative na judicial na siya, ma'am?
Hindi. Tarang administrative agency, nagbilong na siya sa ganito, Villares. Primarily, nakabilong siya sa Junel. Asa gani nakabilong ang mga administrative agencies like the National Bureau of Investigation. Asa siya nakabilong?
Executive Department.
Executive, ma'am.
Yes, Executive Department. So the primary function, the primary purpose of the National Bureau of Investigation is to conduct investigation. Now that is an executive function actually. Maugid na ihang mandate. Kanang ihang function under me. So ang executive power rests on the head of the president, di ba? President of the Philippines. Mo na siya executive part. Siya gyud. And of course, naa siya gipang National Bureau of Investigation, Department of National Defense, mga inon anak. But of course, the president cannot execute that himself, cannot administer that himself. Kinanda niyang i-delegate into administrative agencies. O ikaw, Bureau of Investigation, sigahira kay mo kung function. Instead of me doing the action, you do that. Oh, okay, so executive na. Now, in the process, there is a mandate there. There is a charter. So, kung maulang ang imuha, if the function of the National Bureau of Investigation is only to conduct investigation, that's all. Kung wala siya function to conduct, kung wala siya lahatakan ng quasi-judicial power, then the FBI cannot decide. Di ka decide na, okay, ikaw ang correct, ikaw ang wrong, ikaw ang guilty, ikaw ang innocent. So, if the NBI does not have this quasi-judicial power, then the NBI cannot hear and decide a certain matter. Their function is limited only to investigate as to the veracity, no? As to the truth of the incident. So, ingon lang na siya. Now, kaganihan itong giingon, there are administrative agencies which are endowed with executive power and quasi-judicial and quasi-legislative. But there are also administrative agencies which do not have this, and they only perform what is being mandated in their office as part of their executive, as part of their administrative regulation or implementation of function only. So, if the NBI is that investigation, then di na siya limit lang. The NBI cannot decide. No? Dili siya, wala siya quasi-judicial power, panang dili siya ka-decide. Si Pedro, correct. Si Juan, ang wrong. Nakuha na nato tapping. Okay. So, let us now proceed. But of course, in hearing, because in hearing and deciding a case, in performing quasi-judicial power, the administrative agency must hear and decide cases through just like a court, and using the procedural due process. Now, in the process of adjudication, the administrative body is normally granted the authority to promulgate its own rules of procedure, provided they do not increase, diminish, or modify substantive rights and subject to the disapproval of the Supreme Court. So if ever the National Labor Relations Commission or the Civil Service Commission for employer-employee relationship controversies in the public sector, na please take note, ang NLRC, iyang task is to settle controversies, employer-employee relationship in the private sector, whereas ang Civil Service Commission is tasked to this case to perform quasi-judicial function in cases of employer-employee relationship controversies in the public sector. So, if employee of the government is illegally terminated, that employee of the government can file a case or complaint in the Civil Service Commission, and the Civil Service Commission will conduct trial. So, iyang i-hear and then look at the evidences and then decide on the matter. Now, in hearing and deciding a case which is lodged in a particular administrative agency, that administrative agency should follow the requisites of procedural due process, just like the courts. Therefore, in the hearing and deciding of a case, the administrative agency should consider the substantive rights of the persons involved. And what are the substantive rights? We have the right to life, the right to liberty, the right to property. And also, respect the minimum requisites of due process. Unsa ng due process? There should be notice and hearing. Therefore, an administrative agency performing quasi-judicial power cannot just decide on its own without conducting hearing. Kaya dapat, mura po siya og korte. No? Kinahanglan na ay hearing, may mga evidences. So, ingon na po ang ihang buhaton. Kung unsa gibuhat sa korte, maupay angay buhaton sa agency perform quasi-judicial power. Otherwise, kung niya buhaton, then iyahang ma-increase or iyang ma-diminish or iyang ma-modify ang substantive rights of the parties. Okay? So, unsa ta kung moingon ta right to life, right to property, right to liberty, aba tayo idea na? Natay idea ana? Baklas? Si Baklas?
Yes, ma'am.
Kung moingon din ka, nakadung ng right to life, right to property, right to liberty.
Yes, ma'am.
Unsa rin ang right to life?
You have the kanang right to live in this world, ma'am.
Right to life, right to live in this world, ana lang. So, kuhaan ka o putlan ka o kamot. Mabuhi raman gyapon ka ana. Mabuhi raman gyapon ka. Ma-consider ba na nimo nga violation to your right to life? Kung putlan kag kamot. Ma-consider na?
Ma-consider siyang violation, ma'am. Because napog kay right man, ma'am, nga imuhang protektahan kasi naa sa imuhang life, ma'am.
Okay, so right to life includes the right of individual to his body, its completeness, free from dismemberment, and extends to the use of God-given faculties which make life enjoyable. So, if you are being imprisoned, if you are deprived of your, di ka pa palakawon, di ka palagun sa imuhang ginikanan, makaingon ba ka nga na-deprive ang imong mga rights? Erika?
Ma'am?
Kung di ka pala alagun, makaingon ba ka na-deprive ang imong rights? Right to liberty, panalit?
Dili, ma'am, makuan raman nimo, ma'am, because mao po na rules sa imuhang ginikanan, hindi ka patagon.
Okay. So, ang right to liberty includes the right to exist, the right to be free from arbitrary personal restraint and servitude. Pero, kung dili ka paagam, wala na nag-ingon nga, uy, mama, naka-violate na ka akong right to liberty. No, wala na nasabot o ingon ana. Okay, so we have here substantive rights, the right to life, the right to property, and the right to property. The right to property and the right to liberty now. Under Article under Article 3, Section 1 of the 1987 Constitution, unsay gi-provide dito na ko'y maka-member ani? Si Rodel.
Kaning ma'am,
Okay, sige.
the 1987 Constitution, ma'am, the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, Article 3 of Rights, ma'am.
No, Bill of Rights, Section 1. Article 3, Section 1.
Ma'am. Article 3, ma'am, the privacy of communication and correspondence shall be inviolable except upon lawful order of the court or when public safety or order requires otherwise as prescribed by law.
Dili siya mo. Dili mo Julian ako gimin. Ang aking mean is Article 3, Section 1. Di ba?
Rights.
Ay, napas na ka, no? Dito lang tamang sa, nor shall any person be denied equal protection of the law, no? Okay. Okay, so, unsay na paloob sa Article 3, Section 1, it refers to due process and it refers to the equal protection clause. So, kung due process, therefore, ang administrative agency in performing its quasi-judicial power should consider due process. Kailangan i-inform, that is, the twin requirements for due process are notice and hearing. Kailangan i-inform ang parties to the case so that there is an existing case against you, against me, against us. Makayakas, but you will be notified and then you will be given the right to be heard. So, notice and hearing. So, you can defend yourself if you are the defendant, and of course, if you are the complainant, you can allege, no, that this person, this defendant, is violating my rights. Okay, so, una siya ang timan-an sa administrative agencies po performing quasi-judicial power that they should not increase, diminish, or modify the substantive rights of the parties. They should consider the both parties' right to life, right to property, and right to liberty. So, dapat na ay due process and dapat i-consider nila ang mga rights of the both of the plaintiff and the defendant. Okay, so by doing that, the administrative agency is as if, performing as if it is a court of law. Okay, so I hope nasabtan natin ang quasi-judicial power of administrative agency. Now, let us proceed to administrative rulemaking or the quasi-legislative power. Quasi-legislative power. In chapters, there is a discussion, thorough discussion, comprehensive discussion on this quasi-legislative power of the administrative agencies. But for purposes of introducing to you quasi-legislative power, this is the power of the administrative agency to make rules and policies. Now, this is that part of the administrative process that resembles enactment of a statute. In other words, it is the power to adopt a general, complete, and comprehensive system procedure, adding new and different rules without regard to its source and discarding old ones. Diba we have here, a commission on elections, pananlitan. We have here commission on elections. This is an administrative agency. Diba? To maneuver CP elections. be it national or local elections. So, Commission on Elections na ha, di siya election. Commission on Elections. Now, there is a Republic Act, diba? There is a Republic Act on this. Okay. Very good, no? Si Tapping, nag-research. So, this is Republic Act. No, kinsay naghimo sa Republic Act? Kinsay nag-draft, nag-adapt, kinsay naghimo? Kinsay naghimo sa Republic Act? Kinsa man Tapping? Dili ang Senate.
Ang legislative.
Okay, so, ang Legislative Department mo ay naghimo sa Republic Act. Now, on my karon, na ang Republic Act, na ang law, and then, kinsa may mulihok para ani? Of course, it is Commission on Elections, di ba? Commission, executive. So, COMELEC na, sa COMELEC na nila. Now, the COMELEC, in performing its task relative to elections, the COMELEC is given quasi-legislative power. So, not legislation made by the Legislative Department. The Republic Act is there already. As to the implementation, because the COMELEC is given, thus implement this Republic Act. As to implementation, the COMELEC now is given quasi-legislative power to adapt, make a rule in order to implement the Republic Act. Nakadungog ta ng implementing rules and regulations. Nakadungog ta na. Okay. So na ay Republic Act, naghimo ang himo sa Republic Act ang Congress, kumingon kag Congress this to the House of State and the House of Representative. Dili ta mo ingon, kamuingon ta og Congress, ta mo ingon or Legislative Department, di ta mo ingon nga Senate lang or House of Representatives lang. So, both na sila, House of Representatives and House of Senate, both na sila nag-comprise sa Legislative Department, nag-comprise sa Congress. Na ano to, no? Ang atong eksena nga gihunahuna, na anay Republic Act, legislation na siya, gihimo sa Congress. And then, gihatag na karon ang implementation of the Republic Act is given to the Commission on Elections, which is the administrative agency or administrative body. Now, in implementing that Republic Act, the administrative agency needs to also adapt, maghimo sa gamay nga statute which is coordinate no to the Republic Act. Unsaon nila pag-implement ani nga Republic Act, gi-allow na silang maghimo po sila mga implementing rules and regulations kung unsaon nila pag-implement. So in the process of adopting and implementing rules and regulations in order to implement the Republic Act, nakahimo na sila, naka-perform na ang administrative agency o quasi-legislative function. No? Na ay Republic Act dako gi-implement sa usa ka administrative agency. In order to implement that Republic Act, kinahanglan sila magmug implementing rules and regulations. Na dili na Congress ang magmuna. Ang agency na mismo. Appeal ang yes. Ang IRR nga ang appeal sa mo na siya yung result sa quasi-legislative function. Dili, di ba ato itanaw ang COMELEC administrative agency. Di ba? Ang COMELEC administrative agency na siya belonging to the executive department. So, ang task niya is to perform functions relative to elections in the Philippines, be it national or be it local elections. Na Republic Act ana. Now karon tungod kay sa Republic Act, gi-assign ang function sa Commission on Election. Ang Commission on Election karon iya na lang implement ang Republic Act. So katong mga policies na kasulod sa Republic Act i-implement sa Commission on Election as an administrative agency. Now, ang COMELEC unsa na niya pag-implement? So aron ma-implement na niya og tarong kinahanglan siyang maghimo og implementing rules and regulation. Sila mismo, ang COMELEC mismo ang maghimo og implementing rules and regulation. Di na ang Congress ang maghimo. Ang himuon ng Congress Republic Act panalitan kan 4Ps. Okay, so naghimo og Public Act ang Congress, ang Legislative Department naghimo og legislation. Republic Act ang himo para ma-implement ning 4Ps program. Karon, taman raman sila dito sa paghimo. Kaningon man ta nga ang Legislative Department igo ra maghimo og balaod. As to the implementation of that Republic Act sa 4Ps, ihatag na og administrative agency. Ang administrative agency nga gitas karon sa Congress para i-implement ang 4Ps program ang DSWD, di ba? So karon DSWD siya mag-implement na nga Republic Act broad kaayo na siya. So para ma-implement nagtarong sa DSWD, ang DSWD karon mo perform na iyang quasi-legislative power or quasi-legislative function. Unsay manifestation nga perform siya? Maghimo siya og implementing rules and regulation para maklaro unsaon pag-implement ang Republic Act. So nasabtan to. Karon ang naghimo karon og IRR implementing rules and regulation ang administrative agency. Tungod kahimo siya gihatagan siya quasi legislative power. Okay to? Sabtan to? Okay na. Ang uban, basta wala na klaruhan. Oh, Wilin. Masabtan to na to, Wilin. Apa? Oh, si Wilin? Wala na.
Naara ko ma'am, pero balaw pa ko pangin ma'am. Kung asan na ka ma'am.
Oh, pero sa imong pamilya, sa imong nadunggan sa ko, nasabtan ra nimo to, ang saning quasi-legislative power. No? Quasi, murag, no? Murag legislative power. Kaya legislative power, nahilong siya sa legislative department. Sa national level, ang legislative department disperse to the Congress, House of Representatives. Sa cabinet, kabilong siya sa sanggunian, panlalawigan. Panlalawigan kay province. Naapod ni siya, mahimo ni siya, naa siya function, di ba? And tapos diri sa municipality, sangguni ang bayan, sa syudad, sangguni ang lungsod, sa barangay, sangguni ang barangay. Karon mo na siya ang gakapot sa actual nga legislative power, di ba? Maurag na sila gakapot sa actual nga legislative power. Ang mga administrative agencies wala na sila legislative power. Wala legislative power ang administrative agencies. Unsay naa sa administrative agencies, why legislative power? Oh. No, nasabi na to.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
I hope so. No? Okay. Para makaproceed ta sa next. Ating next, kay sayon rin sa doon, no? Rationale or fundamental reason basis for the creation of administrative agencies. Ingon diri, the larger the organization, the more complicated work process, and the greater the need for manpower, equipment, supplies. Na, as the organization grows, daghan ang mga proseso, mga trabaho, daghan ang panglan, maginahanglan mga equipment, and so in that case, workload has to be allocated. There has to be divided labor. Otherwise, kung dili na i-divide ang mga i-allocate ang mga trabahoon, wala mahan, no? Tungkol sa kadaghan. This is the setting up of additional hierarchical levels of or contact points. Related tasks have to be grouped together under a bureau or department. Specialization of function results. Authority needs to be delegated. Coordination points have to be established. A system of control to be instituted so that component units perform in accordance with prescribed norms and standards operating procedure. Now, this is the reason why administrative agencies are created. In short, unsa daw ni kabasa man tingali mo, this deal has been posted many days ago. So, unsa daw ni? Nganong na-create man ni? Nganong na-create ang administrative agencies? Oh, kinsay makatubag? Bertrand.
Yes, ma'am. Sa the question, ma'am.
Di ba? Why administrative agency created? That diri sa paragraph ang explanation diri. Pero in short, i-shorten na to. Nganong na-create mang yun ning administrative agency?
Bukida, ma'am.
Oh, sige, bukida.
Based on my understanding, ma'am, kung ang organization magkadaghan pod ang trabaho, so kanang mag-need ang organization og kanang daghan pod nga tawo og mga equipments, ma'am.
Dayon, nganong aha naman isulod ang administrative agency?
Paano, ma'am? Sila ang mag-manage sa crisis and lawmaking, sila mag-himo na, ma'am.
Administrative agency, lawmaking?
Sila ang magkuhan, ma'am.
Mag-implement, mag-approve.
Sila ang mag-administer.
Ang administrative agency kay because naman yung mga challenges, mga obstacles na gina-face. So katong administrative agencies, they are assigned nga dito ka nga part nga, for example, a serious problem, mag-manage sila dito. Usay problem diri kamo mo'y himo nga kamoy mo manage man ba. Correct ka, Beltrán, mo manage to the problem in the specific areas.
Manage crisis.
Di ba kaganina ganun ta nga ang administrative agency properly belongs to the executive department. Tapos pumunta sa department, ang taong at ang resente, siya man, di ba? Ang head sa executive department. Now, ayog sa unang panahon nga, usara ka kagamay nga, barangay or sabay tawag ato sa unang panahon. Ang manage sa usa ka executive, ba? So, na pwede lang niya mahimo nga siya ra isa. Tanan areas, national areas sa defense, sa di niya kaya niya buhatan. But, ang presidente, kay siya minaas sa executive, di niya national defense, di na niya siya patanan, health, huy, nakatay pandemic karon. Ako mangunay ani dili na. Kinahanglan niyang i-delegate. So, nga na administrative agencies. Okay, Department of Health. Tanawa ni ang sitwasyon sa Pilipinas regard to pandemic. Okay, National Department. Tanawa ning sitwasyon sa Pilipinas og na kay nakatay problema, di ba? So, mao nang i-delegate niya kay di na niya kaya. Therefore, administrative agencies need to be created to simplify complicated work processes and also para mabuhat ni siya because if the president, ang president CEO, ano na nahitabo diha sa inyong department, saan nahitabo diha? Kaya isipan ni tanan, walay mahitabo Pilipinas, walay upadungan, di ba? So there has to be administrative agencies to manage sila nga mga sitwasyon. Mo na naatay Department of Health sa pandemic karon. National Defense, patanan kay naarba to ining sulod nga identified flying aircraft unsa ka ni, di ba? So naay crisis bahi sa diri sa ato ang claim sa South China Sea. Ay mga ingon ana day. So dapat mag-delegate na. There has to be administrative agencies for the execution implementation of the workload, di ba? Kay dili ni kayahon og isa lang agency, dili ni kayahon isa ka tao lang, dili ni kayahon og isa department lang. So there has to be administrative agencies. Okay. And it's time na nakoy klase po, 9:10:30. So, I hope that naatan na nato ni unsang agency unsa iyang function, basic niya nga function sa gyud, and then nahata ang uban administrative agencies nahatagan pug quasi judicial function sa power nahatagan quasi judicial quasi legislative. So unsa ni sila, I hope na with our action today nakuha natin unsa ni sila. Okay, nakuha ba to ni?
Yes, ma'am.
Uban daw. Ang uban daw tingog daw.
Nakuha
Nakuha.
Yes, ma'am. Okay ra.
Okay. Nakuha ra?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Tor. Nakuha ra. Okay,
Yes,
general.
ma'am. Nakuha ra na ako,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Nakuha ra, ma'am.
Wala, dili 7:30. Dili taping 7:56 kay nagulat minimo.
Sana all.
Wow. Okay, sige. So, mao na to no? Okay. Nag-record pod ko diri.
Ma'am,
Nag-record ko
sorry
diri.
kayo, ma'am.
Ako,
Ma'am.
halak, recorder man. Free record yan,
Tapping
Ma'am,
related. Dinaay ko ni ma'am. Nasay
Depende
dun sa nga app yan.
namang recorder para sa voice. Ako ning i-try check. Check na ko ni din i-upload na ko ni. Kung plitan wala gyud ni siya, wala mo katunong tapping, katong imong record kuan lang to ha. I-isip lang sa ilaha. Although lang wala siya na
Basic okay na kay ma'am kay naman siya gi-assign ganina.
Recorder gyud sa voice recorder gyud sa ako ang akong gigamit dili sa
Okay ra na siya, ma'am.
Okay ra kayo
Ako
siya,
ni
ma'am.
kay
Ma'am, okay
Okay
kayo
ra
na
na
siya,
siya,
ma'am.
okay. Oo. Kung
Tapping na
ako
may
sa silahan,
assistant,
lang
ma'am.
dito. Kablo mo record kung ako lang dito sa silahan. So, Tuesday, kaya naman ko sa eskwelahan na si tapping yun itong asahan na, ha?
Ma'am, bunali man pag malate na po.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Oo,
Ma'am, sa
tapping.
Tuesday,
Kasi
ma'am.
kay nagpasaya
Ma'am,
tapping.
Ayaw kapulog tapping.
Ma'am, sa
Ayaw nagkatulog taping.
Ayaw
Oo,
kapulog.
nakatulog og hinulat.
Paghulat taping, bra, di ka katulog.
Okay, sige. Sige na, ha? Sige, bye-bye. Bye-bye, guys. Kaya ako'y class code 9 to 10:30.
Bye,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Sige.
Goodbye, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sige, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Ay mo sigaway. Uy, sabahan ninyo.
Ang importante, sundin na ka magpa.
Hoy, unsa daan na hitabo?
Oh my God. Lang.
Tulog mo. Tulog ka.
Wait, tapping gagawin ka gagawin.
I just did